Hello guys, and we're here again as we continue to explore the Pauper format, and we're checking of course the recent uploaded decks and events at the MTG Top 8. And we found one of let's say a somewhat interesting build for this Affinity as the version for Azorius Affinity from the Fuguete League 165. It was about 40 players I think from that event, but this one deck has finished in the top 4 of the tournament, and we'll see his version. That's what would this build would look like, as we know that Affinity could go almost 3 colors or more of that of the Boros, but this one we have only that of blue and white, or the Azorius color alignment. And we are going now to see the main deck. We have 4 non-creature artifacts, 25 creatures. So we see the usual suspects here. We have 4 enchantments, which all that glitters is one way to get your creature pump for each of the artifact enchantments you control. We have 3 instants, that's the counter spell, 17 lands, and 7 sorceries, which are basically card draw effects that go inside with ghosts discounted whenever for the artifacts you control, or that of a human and non-human you control. So we'll see what the usual cards that is included. So since we are using for the white based or white blue, we have access to the awesome Inspector creatures. So we have 4 copies of the Novice Inspector, and of course the Travel Inspector, which is the original, I believe the original version, wherein it can also investigate or make a clue token. Makes sense because it would go aligned with the Affinity, and that also the other 1-drop would coincide, or let's say a 1-drop or a sealed drop are the copies of Brute and Ornithopter. So make sure early on that we can have at least 2 creatures, since Ornithopter is free to cast. That's basically 0 to cast here, and also a copy of Operation Walker, which can also help out with the Affinity, and of course a free mana or a free spell per se. So casting off with that one, or going well with another 1-drop here, which is the land creature Springlit Drum, and then carving up into a turn 2 all that glitters, which can get off a good chunk of damage from your opponent. Now what makes it efficient for the all the glitters to enchant is this copy of the Brute. So Brute here can be used to pay 1 that can be blocked this turn except by creatures with haste. So knowing that in the format they have basically little to none creatures that are haste, aside of course from Brute. And blocking also this one with enchanted by all that glitters would be that of a bad decision, or maybe just jump blocking because it gets bigger for already for each of the artifact enchantments you control. So that setup per se, we have also of course kind of a mid-game to late game setup or scenario or a game plan. So you can see here, aside from the 1-drops, we have also considered 4 copies of Moon Circuit Hacker. So this creature would also be just become a 2-cost for 2/1, but can ninjutsu for 1. So if you ninjutsu a creature and then when it deals combat damage, you may draw a card and then discard a card unless Moon Circuit Hacker enter the battlefield this turn. So the first time it enters, you can basically ninjutsu your Ornithopter, for example, and then deal 2 damage with the Hacker and then draw a card. That's a free draw per se. And then later on, you can still have this one to use for spare cards that are being used to be discarded for this ability, that whenever it deals combat damage to a player. So for that also, we have here that they considered 4 copies of Mere Enforcer, which can of course gets the Affinity for artifacts and gets cheaper by the cost for each of your artifacts you control. And again, Springlit Drum would help with that of your extra creatures, can be used to tap to add 1 mana mini color to wrap you into maybe countering using mana for Mental Attribute, or hard casting a Thought Cast, for example, or one of mine. So with that kind of setup in the main deck, we check on the lands, wherein we still have a few access here that basically more of the artifact lands because of Ancient Den and Seat of the Synod are still legal to play in the format. And of course the printed already before, that's the Razor Tide Bridge, that is still an artifact land that is indestructible when it comes to play tap. You can also do a fix for blue and white. And then of course copies of Dark Steel Citadel, which is the untapped land that is also indestructible for any of the artifact destroy effects from your opponent. And the last is the island to fill up the gap for the 17 lands components of this deck. Now for the sideboard, which we can see here, that's pretty much basic again. We just need to have those against specific matchup, like for instance copies of blue Elemental Blast and Hydro Blast against red. So any red variants can be used for the sideboard. You can maybe took out some of the card draw effects, or even Metallic Rebuke, for example, and all the glitters, to make sure that you can have to board in this one against the mono red or the red base matchup. We have also 3 copies of the Relic of Progenitus that can be used to exile cards from graveyard, and then gets you to cantrip this one to exile all cards from our graveyard to draw a card. And we have a copy of Destroy Evil. So this is the only one copy in the sideboard, which can also deal with enchantments or your opposing creature that has the toughness of 4 or greater. So relevant enchantments can be destroyed, of course, your opponent. Also, if we have all the glitters, for example, or you have a creature from your opponent that's basically having a toughness of 4 or greater, can be used as a good target for this card. And of course, we have 2 copies here against black matchup, the black based or Dimir based matchup. We have Obsidian Acolyte that is also gets you to protect your creature from black until end turn by paying 1 mana, and 4 copies of Dust to Dust. So if you are facing affinity matchups, again, Mirror Match would be the best card to do this against them. And also because that it can remove them from the game, which means that any indestructible creatures or artifacts is invalid for this kind of sideboard against them. So again, just a quick setup for these cards for the sideboard. Of course, mono red Elemental Blast, Affinity Mirrors, Dust to Dust, Obsidian Acolyte for the mirror or black-green based or black-based mid-range matchup. Also with Destroy Evil and Relic Progenitus against those graveyard shenanigans or those that deal with affinity in graveyards. And last but not the least, we check on the mana value. It's at 2.28. We have a lot of 1 drops and 2 drops per se in this, and imagine that this high mana cost sorcery would also cost less because of their certain bonuses for affinity for artifacts and of 1 mind human and non-human creatures. And for color distribution, we have evenly have for 12 for white and 14 for blue, and the producers are pretty much even here per se, because you can see that the composition of white and blue lands mana producers are pretty much even for this kind of setup. And last but not the least is our only clue token. This is produced by the inspectors in this deck, which can then also give you affinity, and later on, if needed, can be cracked to draw a card. So I think this deck would still be considered a tier 1 on the current Pauper format. We know that the format would still be catering artifact-based strategies, and this version of the deck would, I think, would be sufficient enough to be a good color choice in the current Pauper metagame in this format. So I think that's pretty much it, guys. Thank you for watching this Affinity Azorius from Fuguete League 165. Don't forget to like, subscribe. We still have more of these kind of videos in the coming days and weeks, and notifications bell on so that you'll be the first to be notified once a new video is uploaded or posted. Again, guys, thank you for watching, and see you on the next video.